Hi, you're watching Salem GASworks, the North Shore's Arts and Entertainment Network, and I'm Sara Maurno. This is my husband, Dan.
Hi, and this is our bi-weekly visit with artistic sorts of people, clearly in a no-frills setting. And as I always say, if you're flipping the dials, don't pass gas. Stay a while.
Oh my God.
This week,
He said it.
our artistic sorts are Bird Mancini, the husband and wife duo of Ruby Bird and Billy Carl Mancini. You've seen them around town at Pig's Eye and Finn's, among other locations. And the Boston Globe has called them a cosmopolitan fusion of pop music in the most adventurous sense of the term. It is a mouthful. And they'll be playing selections from their new album, Bird Mancini Lounge. Can't wait to get there. We'll also be talking with collage artist Brian Gordon. Now, you've seen his work around town and on the cover of Weekly Dig, for example. But Brian's one of those guys, you begin to research him and you say, wow, he's so often the case. He's got a lot more tales to tell. Brian was,
like,
for
wow,
example.
like really cool, or wow, like really?
Like, no.
Really cool.
With awe, Brian, for example, was on the Last Comic Standing. You're a contestant, is that right?
Well, there was a clip of my audition on the show.
All right. Well, that qualifies.
It counts.
That qualifies.
Counts.
Yeah.
Brian,
You never know what you're going to
The
get.
whole nanosecond, but it was great to see myself this small.
Me too. And Brian was also will tell us about BSG Social Learning, where he uses his collage art. He describes himself as a social decoder who helps people who need assistance achieving greater social functionality. And he'll tell us about working with Boston Magazine and with Absolute Vodka, his latest collage gigs. But first, we'll spend a few minutes with Bird Mancini. Now, we were talking a little earlier. Now, you folks are just getting going as a duo, and maybe the Eurythmics are being cheapskates. They're not even using the name anymore, and they won't let you use it. And Paul and Oates are playing hardball. How do you come up with Bird Mancini?
Well, I'm Ruby Bird, and this is Billy Carl Mancini, so...
Why aren't you Billy Ruby?
Well...
Dodging the hardballs here on GASworks.
Billy and Ruby would be easy for somebody else to come up with. We had to come up with a name that, maybe... Yeah. We had to come up with a name that nobody else would.
That
we
sounds
wanted to
too
be
close to
unique.
Billy Rubin.
And,
Now,
it's really hard to come up with a name that
It's a
hasn't
great
been
name,
used.
that hasn't been
great name.
used.
Yeah.
Actually, Billy, you were telling me that it was surprising that you had a name that you thought was for the duo.
We had a name a long time ago with a sort of a blues band that we were in. We released a couple of CDs, a band called the Sky Blues, and we got hit with a cease and desist from some bunch of rich boys in New York area, Scarsdale or something.
Yeah,
Wow.
from Scarsdale. And so they were
They were
going to
like-
sue us. But, you know, we were ready to change our direction anyway. So our musical direction was going somewhere totally away.
So you got a legal letter
we-
that said something to the effect of, hey,
Yeah.
we're the Sky Blues.
That's right.
Well, we
Even
were.
though we had the name first, but we didn't.
Whoever has the
know.
money
You know what?
gets the
it's got-
name.
So they
yeah.
registered it or something? Or?
No,
Yeah.
they hadn't, but they wanted to, and it's a long, boring story.
Wasn't
The
worth
lawyers
fighting.
screwed
Yeah.
it up. That's what happened, and then we said, well, we don't want it anyway. So
Yeah.
they took it, and then they broke up.
Yeah.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, I have said it before. You won't remember, but I do. I'm old enough. Life was so much easier before the internet when
Yeah.
people could find you. It was just, these people would never have heard
That's
of
right.
you, I'm sure. So we've got this, your newest album. This is your 5th recording as Bird Mancini, Bird Mancini Lounge,
Yes.
where, Ruba, you were telling me earlier, you'd played, I guess, bossa nova or lounge enough on your albums, but not consistently. You decided to...
Well, yeah, bossa nova has been an influence of ours for a long, long time, and so almost every album prior to this one, there's at least one, maybe just one, maybe sometimes two songs that sort of are loosely based on that. And we thought, wow, why don't we just put them all together on a single album? And we had some new material to add. So about half of this has been previously released on other albums. Possibly some of those songs have been redone or done a little bit differently, and then we have all new material for the rest. So it's been a fun project for us, but it's very different.
That is fantastic. I have to ask, I mean, it's obvious, you're born with the name Mancini, you gotta use it. Is there any Henry Mancini influence in this album, or did he ever influence you in your career?
Nope.
No?
But my grandfather's name was Henry Mancini,
Uh-huh.
but he's not the one with the money, so in any event, no. The answer is no. But I love all that Pink Panther bit and
Peter Gunn.
Peter Gunn,
yeah.
Actually, a lot of rock bands do that song. Or
Sure.
Peter Gunn, anyway.
Sure.
What's the elephant one that he does?
The baby elephant one.
It's
I
from
would
the-
love to hear
Right?
you play that, Ruby.
Oh,
That you'd be
that would be
fabulous.
really
melodica
cool.
song
From
would be a
the
good one.
That would be a good
from the
one.
John Wayne flick Hatari is where that comes
Oh,
from.
really?
Little bit of
Trivia.
now. Here's what's interesting, Ruby. You're a Southern girl. Your influences were actually your training was gospel, right?
Yes, well, Midwestern. Not
Midwestern.
exact, really southern
Oh, really?
Missouri,
Okay.
northern Missouri. And yeah,
Wow.
I grew up singing in church.
Now this is I find that fascinating. You look at who has come out of gospel. Elvis, Tom Jones, Whitney Houston. Every year on American Idol, one of their more powerful contenders says, well, I grew up singing in church. Why is gospel such a great training ground?
I don't know.
They
there's
started young.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
started young. I was 5 years old when I sang "Jesus Loves Me" in front of an audience.
Really?
So,
But it's also this in that art form. It's you just sing with your whole heart and soul. It just lends itself to rock and so many other.
I mean, the Holy Spirit's in the room, you know, and usually it's a very forgiving audience, and there's a very supportive audience. They're with you, and so it's a very encouraging environment to start out.
Wow, wow.
It's bigger than you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're singing for God, I guess really it's almost as though you're not even thinking about am I good? It's bigger than you
praising, praising. Yeah.
Well, I know Tom Jones said that that sheer power he has in his voice. He says, "I'm in this big chapel in Wales, and there's no microphone, and there's no amplifier, and I got to reach, up
The
there."
back of the room.
And hence we got the guy who sings Delilah
Yeah.
with power. How about now, Billy, your inspirations were more Clapton. I think you said something about being, the garage band guy playing Clapton or those types.
Oh, I
Am right?
don't know. I probably played Clapton in a garage somewhere. But, no, yeah, I mean, I come from the whole rock and roll Beatles bit, and I grew up Catholic, so there was no good gospel in my church. So no one encouraged me to sing. But, it just, rock and roll is what, and most of our records are sort of rock albums.
Sure.
This one is not.
Yeah.
And it's the only album we've just focused on sort of one specific style.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's what attracted me to your work when I first heard of it, because just there is a lot of things that you do around Salem, and I saw your name out there a few times. And I went to you online, and I was like, wow, really a crazy mash of psychedelic, bossa nova, rock, all this wonderful fusion. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, we do what we like, and that happens to be a lot of stuff, and back in the 60s, it was easy to hear all that stuff, on the same radio station. You could hear, Dean Martin and Brazil 66 and the Beatles and Rolling Stones,
Hendrix and
Jimi Hendrix,
all
all
of it.
within the same hour on the
Yeah.
same station.
Yeah.
That's how I grew up.
Yeah.
So we think,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it allowed, or just the dude who was doing the music was just so baked that whatever he thought of next he put on or something?
No, it's
she's
just-
describing AM radio in the
AM
60s.
AM.
radio in
Yeah.
the 60s. It's
FM
true.
was a luxury. Yeah.
It
We
was.
put
And now,
Stravinsky's Firebird Suite right after Rainy Days and Mondays.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
they
you
might
would
not
see
do
crazy
that.
mixes like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You
everything's
would.
so categorized now that it's
Yeah.
kind of, in a way,
It's interesting. I have
It's not as
Sirium
interesting.
XM radio, and you listen to it in the car. And Sarah has said this: a station gets dull because they might as well spin the same record again and again and again. It
Yeah.
becomes there is no variety
Sometimes.
one song to the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New radio stations are better though,
Yeah.
because they don't have the advertisers yet, so it's all music, and they just can play whatever they want. And then all of a
well,
sudden,
and college radio
Yeah.
is usually great,
Yeah.
you know, because
Yeah.
they'll do anything.
Yeah.
Where they bother to have a DJ. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, something I wanted to ask about, as long as we're talking about, classic music, is you folks actually played that Cavern Club in Liverpool,
Oh, yeah.
where it is just a stony brick arch that the Beatles played in their salad days. How did you wind up playing the Cavern Club?
We're both major Beatle heads, but there's a festival called the International Pop Overthrow,
Sure.
Uh-huh.
and they invited us to do it, and we took a whole band with us. Everybody was thrilled. So we went and played the Cavern. By the way, the original Cavern Club. They turned it into a parking lot, and then they turned it into a shops and things.
Yeah.
They realized their mistake, and then they created a new one that is an exact replica.
It's right next
So
to
they
Oh,
it.
right
tore
next door.
down that under the bridge abutment.
and then they
brick.
recreated
Oh,
it.
wow, that is now
Wow.
here's as we're kicking back to bands of that era. On April 15th of this month, you are on the album A Low Budget Barrel of Monkeys, being a Monkeys concept album, right? Playing Last Train to Clarksville.
That is correct, sir.
The Monkeys, underappreciated.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Not much.
Why?
There's a whole
Absolutely.
cult of sort of Monkeys fans now, and if you look at all this, they had a ton of songs that weren't necessarily hits like Last Train to Clarksville that you've never heard. And if you go back, and in fact, Mike Nesmith is going to be in town very soon. Mike Nesmith from the Monkees.
Sure.
So this is a whole thing, all different artists doing their tributes to the Monkees, the Prefab Four.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? We are running out of time, and you have promised that you would play for us today.
Didn't we?
I just want to take a moment to remind people where they can find more about you, and also I will invite people to visit GASworks, where we will continue to roll information through about what you're up to. Where can we find you online, and what's the best place to track you down?
Birdmancini.com.
Okay.
Birdmancini.com. And we'll scroll that too. And so you're going to play us a selection of 3. I'm really intrigued to hear the one, if you want to get to know me, which Ruby tells us is about the behavior of young women in clubs where they've played. And I'm really curious to hear what that behavior is. Yeah. Now, before while the band is setting up, we're going to see a few minutes from the current production at the Salem Theater Company of Split, Tales of Escape, playing through mid-April. But if you're tuning in later than that, watching a rerun, what is the website, darling?
It's salemtheater.com.
Theater, T-R-E, theater.com. And they've always got something fabulous going. So let's cut to that while the band plays.
And this is where I took Suzanne for bagels that time. They were delicious. Want to see?
No thanks. I'm not that hungry. Plus, it's almost dinner time.
No, I mean just to see.
You just want to show me the bagels?
Yes, they look so delicious. They do a very good job here. Let's pop in just to look.
Wait, you want me to just look at some bagels?
Yes, am I speaking Portuguese?
That doesn't make sense.
What, you can't appreciate a good bagel?
No one goes somewhere to look at a bagel.
Well, not just one, all of the bagels.
No, I don't want to look at a bagel. If I want to look at something, I will go to a museum.
Some of them have seeds on top.
I'm not looking at frickin' bagels.
Well, excuse me for trying to let you in on part of my life.
Please don't start with that right now.
Why aren't you married?
Why aren't you dead?
Ladies and gentlemen, Bird Mancini.
You gotta look good
Awesome. What a studio audience today. Thank you very much. I think I'm doing Midway Dream Cafe.
Yeah.
I met a man, said he had been to the gathering of the flock, and he lived off the land, and that his mission in this life was just to rock. He was 18, lived on the dream, soon to be awoken in the jungle of the broken-hearted. Another night between dreams and reality, another story I'll be told, another life to unfold at the Midway Dream Cafe. Oh. Sally likes to croon. She likes to sing it for the band just for fun. She may not stay in tune, but she has practiced all week for her moment in the sun. She sings her song. Nothing is wrong. Tomorrow will not come, and yesterday is gone. Another between dreams and reality, another story I'll be told, another life to unfold at the Midway Dream Cafe. Oh, 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 if I see another sad face looking up at me, I may have to leave this sad place. Wouldn't you agree? I can look them in the eye as I am floating through their dreams. Floating through their dreams. Between dreams and reality, another story I'll be told, another life to unfold at the Midway Dream Cafe. Oh, at the Midway Dream Cafe. Oh, 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 Thanks so much. Hello, friends. This is a song called Bridge 51 from our latest CD, Bird Mancini Lounge. And Miss Ruby will do the vocals, right?
That's
and
right.
play claves.
Yeah.
I'm writing just for the sake of today. 51. There is a long way to fall on Bridge 51. I'll steer away from the siren's call. I'm so glad I got you to show me the way. Without you, I'd probably lose me. New highways will always be where we belong. It's wide open, just like we're 21. On Bridge 51, there is a long way to fall. On Bridge 51, I'll steer away from the setting sun. Bridge 51, I can't see further than where we've gone. Bridge 51, I'm rolling over the horizon.
Thank you, folks.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're back, and we're going to spend a little time with collage artist Brian Gordon. And Brian, you know, you get so much out of collage. I look at your work, and this is, first off, it's not a very common artwork, but there's a theory behind what you do. I guess, tell me, what can collage do that other methods of art can't?
Jeez, I don't know. I mean,
He's speechless.
for me,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, for me, it was something that it just kind of happened because I was burnt out doing art that was very sort of geometric, and I didn't realize that I had sort of, pardon the pun, like painted myself into a corner. And so I wanted to do something that was based completely on impulse and instinct, because there's no wrong way to make a collage. So that's how I started doing them. And those geometric pieces were envelopes, actually. I've been making my own stationery since I was 18. I can remember wanting to write letters for a specific reason, too. I mean, it was because I wasn't, and I began to lose relationships with people. And so I vowed that I would always write letters. And I wasn't going to pay money for ugly stationery, so I grabbed brown bags from the supermarket and started making my own envelopes. And then they started to get increasingly more ornate, and they were all very, like I said, geometric. They were just really cool, but in the end I got really bored. And
Did the themes that you were working with in your letters, were they reflective in the stationery too?
not at first.
Not at first?
No, not at first. And they were just standard envelopes too, the ones that just opened in one place. So I decided that I would design an envelope that would fold in 4 places, so that it would be standardized, so I wouldn't have to pay more than a regular stamp. And then I was creating these two-dimensional collages inside them, and then housing a letter and just closing it up, because I wanted the mail to be the art. I like functional
Beautiful.
art.
Yeah.
I like it to not necessarily have to be on a wall.
I hope everyone saved their letters, because now it's you know, they have something by a
Collector's
famous
item.
artist. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
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 Are you still doing that?
What's that?
The envelopes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But the point was that the collages started to just get bigger.
Okay.
And
okay.
But the envelopes initially, before the geometric ones, they began to require their own envelopes to send them. It was ridiculous. So I was kind of making it, I was trying to return to the functionality piece, but then they started to grow, and now my collages are three-dimensional again, so there you go. You know, I don't know how to stop. But I liked the collages, to get back to what you were asking, because it was infallible. It was a way to just really enjoy making compositions and not worrying about it doing anything other than just feeling good.
Wow. Is it, it looks impulsive when you put a collage together. Is it impulsive? Or do you give a lot of thought to, you know what would go good here? Like we're looking at a wonderful piece that you've got here now that you did for Boston Magazine, and I'm seeing zippers, and I'm seeing, you know, a hanging moon with a drag queen sitting on it. I'm seeing, you know, little Irish schoolboys. These seem like incongruous things. Tell us how these elements got on this page.
Well, I comb magazines and old photos and just old children's books, anything that I can get my hands on. And if I really like an image, then I will cut it out. And what I do is I will essentially just take every image that I love and I will adhere it to a poster board, because I need the pages to be fortified so they can stand up on the paper, because they're also three-dimensional, so they can't be all bendy and ripping easily. And then from there, I'll take pieces and I'll put them on the canvas and move them around. And I mean, it's completely juvenile. You know, like I'll fly a butterfly in, like I don't know how many times, until I'm like, I want to be right here. And I never adhere something until I'm absolutely sure that it belongs there. So there are at least, I don't know, 100 different compositions that are happening. I mean, you definitely have to have a sense of composition, but really it's just that impulse that this image, it belongs in whatever universe it is that I'm creating at the time. Because they're narrative based, they're story based.
But they're narrative without words. You know, it's a communication that's beyond words. And what's interesting to me about looking at them is you use the retro and vintage images a lot. There's a lot of images of little innocent little chicks and birds and butterflies. But then all of a sudden there could be something like a snake in the middle of all that. And I'd love to talk to you about a couple of the images. There's for instance, there's one with cherry blossoms, the Elton John one, and you know, cherry blossoms, and there's a swimsuit model, and summer activities, and rowing, and baby chicks, and eagles, and flying saucers. How did you come up with the name Elton Has Left the Building for this particular piece?
Well, it was a play on Elvis Has Left the Building.
Okay.
So, but it was Elton, and I've just, I try to put Elton John in all my pieces.
Really?
Yeah. Although lately I've kind of left him out because they're kind of commercial pieces, and I'm starting to get to a place where I might get in trouble. So I'll sneak him in there but I sneak myself in there a lot too. I have this one little image of myself that I try to use, where when I was at one point very flexible, where my legs like literally up here. But I love Elton John, and I have these Sotheby's in like 1989 had this giant auction. Elton John must have needed the money. I don't know what it was, but he sold all of his gear, and there was a catalog. So all the pictures are in there. So if you look in that piece, there are at least probably 6 pieces that are Elton John's real glasses that he wore, that are either kind of hanging somewhere or being worn by one of the people in the piece. His piano is there. His outfit from the Goodbye Yellow Brick Road tour, which literally looks like the album cover, which was very inspirational in my pieces, where I like expanded narrative. So a lot of the pieces that you'll see that are mine, they go out of the frame.
Yes.
I like the idea of people wondering what's happening beyond the picture.
Yeah. Little kids climbing off the edges, and
yeah.
The titles are amazing, and I wish I had time to go through all of them. I'm going to encourage people to visit your website to do that, because the titles are fabulous. But I just want a couple of them I wanted to point out here. there was one that I looked at, and I thought at first it was Latin. Then I realized, is it Hebrew? No, it's not. It's backwards.
Oh,
It
yeah,
was
yeah,
the
yeah.
Women Rule the Planet. And so, how do you pronounce it? Talnalp et Ilur Nimau.
Perfect.
And you spelled it backwards. It took me a moment. It took me, So, how did you come up with the title for that one? Was there something in the piece, or did you come up with the title first and then play with the idea?
Well, it definitely was very female-centric. I mean, there are all these women with guns and stuff, and all the men in the picture look like they're just being protected by the women, which, I think we all know that that's really what's happening.
Yes, isn't it?
Well,
And but then I thought, well, women rule the planet. But I think maybe that day, I forget why, but I think I was just pretending doing things backwards, and so I thought, wow, I wonder if that would actually work in terms of being pronounced, because some things you can't say them backwards, but that happened to work.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really curious about the Stewarts are one house over, but they are away for the next 3 days.
Yeah, that was fun.
Did that really happen? Are these neighbors of yours?
No,
Is
well,
that a lyric from somewhere that I don't remember?
I don't think so. Who knows? I mean, Paul McCartney, I think he called up all of his friends when he wrote Yesterday, the melody. He woke up with the melody and played it for everybody, and nobody recognized it, so he was like, I guess it's mine. He couldn't think, I guess, do you guys remember what Yesterday was called before it was Yesterday?
The
Scrambled eggs.
Stewarts are...
Oh, really?
Scrambled eggs, scrambled eggs. Right?
But where did the Stewarts come from here?
Oh, the Stewarts.
Back.
There was a family on my street growing up called the Stewarts, and they were not ever away, but they were out to lunch. But in the image, if you look closely, there's a girl who is looking out the door, and there's a couple that are literally floating there in a hot air balloon. And I love the idea that was very Massachusetts. Idea that somebody could knock on the door and you open it, and there's a couple in a hot air balloon being like, "Are you the Stewarts?" No. They're next door, but I think they're away for 2 weeks. I just love the idea of that scene happening. And then there's just a bunch of other stuff that just radiates around it.
Okay, so can I just say, this is why I brought you guys together, because of the psychedelic kind of fusion of ideas that kind of just, the unexpected. I just love that. I love that about both of your work.
Fabulous.
Well, I think it'd be great if you'd do our next album cover.
Yeah.
See, this is how things happen.
Oh, I would love to do that.
Yeah.
I keep thinking that you're going to pull that derby off and flowers are going to sprout out or something.
See, there's the album cover.
Why not?
I like that idea, but unfortunately, no flowers.
No.
I do.
It does have a lot of hair back.
See, that could have been like Schrodinger's cat. If you kept it on there, I could still believe that maybe there were flowers under there, but that's all right.
Blown your illusion.
No, no one ever blows my illusion.
I feel terrible about this only because we're having such a great time with Brian here, and I wanted to hear more about his last comic standing, for example, and his stand-up career. But it turns out we're running out of time.
Oh, wait. We've got to talk about BSG quickly, please.
BSG, quickly. Okay, very good.
Have to.
You're right. So,
Absolutely.
no, we are not cutting away. Please stay. There is, you use collage to more or less help people who have a difficult time with their voices, kids with ADHD, kids with autism, to find their voices. Is that right?
Well, it's a vehicle for something that I hope that the artwork does. Because it's story-based, when people look at them, it's amazing to hear what people think is going on in them. Because in the same way that there's no wrong way to make a collage, there's no wrong story either. And what that does, essentially, is expands the process by which you associate detail. How do you build a story? And can you look at all of these images that at one point were just completely unrelated and now belong together? And that's life, really. And so I work with a lot of kids that have trouble just naturally interpreting the narrative of life, the drama that's unfolding around them. And collage is great for that if you use a lot of images that they recognize. Like, for instance, you take Charlie Brown and Pikachu from Pokemon and Superman, and they don't linearly belong. They're from different universes, but they do cohabit in the composition. And kids will look at you and be like, they don't belong together. And you're like, well, there they are. So they can't refute it. But then if you say, okay, well, I have 2 stories in there of why they're together. See if you can find one of them.
Okay.
And the truth is that I don't have any stories, but theirs are awesome. And what it does is plant a seed, because there's always seed planting in life, constantly trying to reinforce processes. And what this does is it gives them a really fun way to accept and embrace the idea that things that don't immediately look like they relate can relate.
And if you look close enough, if you look for the
Children with
connection.
those.
And that
yeah.
leads to greater executive
Yeah.
functioning, greater problem solving.
So this is what
ability.
you do 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, right?
Yeah.
What's your website? Just because I think it's really important for people to know.
www. Dot. The dot is really important.
Yeah.
Dot.
BSG Learning.
BSG, as in boy, silver, gorilla.
Okay.
BSG Social Learning.com.
Okay, we'll roll it through.
BSGSocialLearning.com.
Yeah. And then my art website, if
Yeah.
you want me to give you that
Please
too,
do.
is BrianSGordon.com.
Brian, B-R-I-A-N. Now, it's important to note that you've had at least 3 school systems as clients in the last couple of years, right?
Probably more than that. Yeah.
Probably, really. So
Yeah.
you've done this with your last few gigs were with over in Danvers, right?
Yeah, well, my last job, I was the director of a program, and we serviced countless school systems. And then when I left and started my own business, a lot of those school systems they hired me because they were comfortable with me and they knew where I was coming from, and it was a good fit.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you're also doing some commercial work as well. You've gotten the Absolute Vodka. You've done something recently at the PBDS. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the more commercial work that you've been doing recently?
Yeah.
With your art?
Well, see, I have ADHD, and so which to me, just knowing that has been great, because I think for a long time people with ADHD, like they think that they're just pulling the wool over everybody's eyes. We secretly think that we're the stupidest person on the planet, and but then when you come to realize that the problems that you have with organizing yourself and so forth, they're not based on intelligence or lack thereof. So when I figured out that I had ADHD, everything got better. But one of the things that helps me is I need my brain to be able to wander while I focus. So I've always been making my pieces in public places, like coffee houses. I can sit there, and then an hour will go by, and there'll be all new people there.
There's
Yes.
a great
Yeah.
picture of you that I saw online of you working in the living room.
Right.
And
that was,
your focus and your hand, you can see you're like right in that creative moment.
Yeah, it's
a great
great. It's like
picture.
you're focusing, and then at the same time, you're like, okay, run along to your brain and go do what you want to do and
But you
listen to
can
everything.
hone in.
The living room was the first, I guess, if you want to call it, sort of commercially requested live art making adventure.
Sure.
And then I was going to do another one recently, but for the Blizzard Bash. This was this cooks from all over the country were coming to converge on Boston and do this giant fundraiser for a foundation. And then the blizzard hit.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it got canceled. The Blizzard Bash got canceled. And then the Boston Magazine and Absolute was one of the sponsors of this Boston Magazine fashion event that happened at the PBDS Museum this past Wednesday. And as sort of, I guess, if you want to call it, like the talent beyond the ladies on the runway was me basically making this collage. But also, again, because I put all the images on these poster boards, there were probably 10 of them for people to look through, and then it becomes interactive because I tell them, if you like an image, choose it, and I'll use it in the piece.
Yeah.
So a lot of the images that are in the Boston Magazine piece that I brought today, those pieces were chosen by the spectators.
By the spectators. We do, we are, practically speaking, we are running out of tape. So we do have to move on.
Oh,
Brian
man.
and you folks, this has been But this is one of those shows where I feel like we could have gone on for 3 hours. It's been fascinating.
I know, there's a lot to
Right.
talk about. It goes
Thank you.
fast.
Thanks for having
Oh,
me.
thank
Delighted,
you. Oh,
delighted. It
God.
was
It's
our
a million
pleasure.
questions I still have.
So, folks,
Thank
I
you.
hope you'll join us in a couple of weeks for another edition of GASworks, and thank you so much to such fun guests today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry we ran out of time.
That's all right. That was great.
You know what?